Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Friends, in today's segment of The Left Has Completely Lost Their Minds, they've decided officially to double down. Joe Biden's MAGA Republicans are a threat to democracy rhetoric clearly has been a massive failure. We've seen the result, we've seen the polling data, but of course the question is, did Democrats learn their lesson from Joe Biden's horribly divisive, disgusting, authoritarian, blood-red backdrop speech? Well, the answer seems to be unequivocally, absolutely not. The Democrats have decided to double down in the most despicable way you could possibly imagine, by standing on the graves of the nearly 3,000 people who were lost on the horrific day of 9/11, using this tragic event to score cheap partisan political points on Twitter and other platforms, as the Democrats once again prove that there is nothing off limits, no subject too sensitive or too taboo, nothing to be avoided if the end result or the goal of said mission is to attack Donald Trump and those who voted for him. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. Another despicable Democrat display. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so first off, irony, hypocrisy. Leftoids have spent years crafting this image that they are the all-virtuous, compassionate side of the political spectrum. They're constantly going on about virtues and good character. Donald Trump or people who voted for Donald Trump, they tell you are morally reprehensible, bad people, people of bad character. But then why is it that the same people who are constantly pointing the finger to the other side as being deeply divisive or lacking basic ethics, why is it that that side always stoops to the lowest of low levels and does frankly some of the most despicable things you could imagine? Well, very simple folks, it's one word, it's called projection. Democrats, NBC anchor exploit 9/11 anniversary to invoke January 6th, attack from domestic terrorists. A top Senate Democrat and media anchor commemorated the 21st anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks by trying to compare them to the January 6 riots at the United States Capitol in 2021. That's right, despite 9/11 being a direct attack on the United States carried out by radical Islamic terrorists, Senator Mark Warner tried to equate the two events. Take a look at this.
And our country came together. And in many ways, we defeated the terrorists because of the resilience of the American public, because of our intelligence community. And we are safer, better prepared. The stunning thing to me is here we are 20 years later, and the attack on the symbol of our democracy was not coming from terrorists, but it came from literally insurgents attacking the Capitol on January 6th. So I believe we are stronger. I believe our intelligence community has performed remarkably. I think the threat of terror has diminished. I think we still have new challenges in terms of state challenges, Russia, and longer term, a technology competition with China. But I do worry about some of the activity in this country where the election deniers, the insurgency that took place on January 6th, that is something I hope we could see, that same kind of unity of spirit.
Now, of course, I could go on and on why this is a bad comparison. I mean, it's clearly a bad comparison. I could go into the details, but do I really need to? The only thing that really needs to be said here is that you have to be a truly awful person to not be able to put politics aside for half a damn second. And I mean, just the utter hypocrisy of these people, not only about what I was mentioning earlier about how they're always going on about bad character being only present on the opposite political side, then they do stuff like this, but the hypocrisy on this reoccurring talking point that keeps popping up with these clowns that are making this terrible comparison. Here's actually another example from ABC's The View, where they make the same comparison.
What's happened? What's been lost with the loss of civility?
I think we're in such a polarized moment right now. And yesterday when I was watching the commemorations, I'm so glad that we as a country take the time year after year, because but that hashtag, never forget, has got to be more than a hashtag. And we must never forget that sense of unity that we all felt that day. I think the big difference is that it was an attack from a foreign foe. But we have had such horrible things that have happened in this country since. They're not the same. Every tragedy is uniquely tragic and sad. But January 6th was a horrible attack on the United States and on democracy. We've had shootings where children have died that have been horrible attacks on civility and on the United States and on what we stand for. We've had the pandemic, and those things have not brought us together. So if anything, if we're going to honor 9/11, one of the ways to do it is to realize that there are times when there should be no politics and it should be about being an American.
You notice how at the start of the sentence, both Senator Warner and Ana Navarro were talking about how horrible it is that America is so divided, and that 9/11 brought people together as Americans to rally against a clear existential threat. And then within the same breath, before they even finish their damn sentence, what do they choose to do? Immediately pivot to January 6th and continue to perpetuate this ultra-MAGA terrorist nonsense, and go as far to compare protesting Americans to a group of Islamic radical terrorists who committed one of the most violent and destructive acts in human history. I mean, it's just awful. The country is so horribly divided. It's such a bad thing. Oh, and by the way, 50% of the country, people who disagree with me and people who protested something that they didn't like, are essentially the same thing as the 9/11 terrorists who attacked the World Trade Center. These are the people who are constantly going on about their moral virtue and just how good of human beings they are and how terrible you are. You're the individual that's ripping the country apart and causing all of this terrible divisiveness. Give me a break. It's all nothing but absolute clear projection. You know, on a day of remembrance, on a day of clear national mourning, you have an actual opportunity to bring people together. And coming from these people, these same people that are constantly going on about how divisive Donald Trump was and how fractured the country is, you would think that they would try to take that opportunity to bridge the gap and bring people together, to maybe lower the heat a little bit within the political world. But of course not. This January 6th, 9/11 comparison basically dominated the news cycle.
Today is September 11th. It was 21 years ago that we were attacked by foreign terrorists. Not quite 20 years after 9/11, the Capitol came under attack from domestic terrorists. With the 9/11 anniversary in mind, I sat down with Vice President Harris on Friday at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. She was there to talk about the space program in general and to speak with some astronauts on the International Space Station. I began by asking the Vice President about how, over 2 decades, our focus has had to shift from foreign terror to the threat from within.
Oh, well, there you have it, folks. Angry Republican voters who walked through the Capitol are essentially the same thing as the 9/11 hijackers. That, I guess, now is the official Democrat stance. I mean, even Kamala Harris made the comparison, and it falls in line with the most recent political messaging campaign that we've been seeing from Joe Biden and the Democrats, that those pesky MAGA Republicans are a clear threat to the American homeland, a threat to democracy, and a couple weeks later on the anniversary of 9/11, they start to draw these comparisons. It's clearly no coincidence. I guess this is the Democrat stance. And you know, if that's the official Democrat stance, then go for it. Just like I've been saying with Joe Biden's Ultra MAGA campaign, it's going to backfire and backfire spectacularly. I mean, you would think that after the January 6th sham hearing, that they'd finally learn their lesson. But of course not, they continue to double down, they continue to look and sound absolutely ridiculous. Oh, and speaking of the January 6th hearings, whatever even happened to those? Wasn't Adam Schiff like a month or two ago promising new bombshell evidence and new witness testimony? It's funny how the whole Mar-a-Lago thing pops up and all of a sudden the January 6th committee just poof disappears from reality. The Democrats continue to inject their venom into the political discussion. They continue to point the fingers at everybody else but themselves. But I think people are slowly waking up and seeing them for what they truly are. They're overplaying their hands, folks, overstepping severely, and it's going to backfire big time. That's what I got for you guys though. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel if you guys are up for it. Of course, I'm going to get back to work. These videos aren't going to record themselves. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.